Fist bump, welcome back. So, my name is Faris, aka the Football Accountant. Shout out my sister for helping me change that logo there. And we are doing a series, or starting a series called Winning the World Cup. Now, in a lot of my team talks, I forget to say something and I have to come back to it the next week. So, something I wanted to do is a giveaway for the first 50 subscribers. So, if that's you, take a screenshot that you're subscribed and send it to the Instagram linked below. That feels very weird to do. And I'll get you some free swag with my brand on it and your initials as well. So we'll be looking at the 5 previous teams to win the World Cup pictured here. And we'll be taking not a super in-depth look, but just a quick overview of their squad makeup, who gets how many minutes, how many caps do you need, how many goals do you need to score, all of these sort of things, looking for trends that then I would use to influence how I pick the team or how I pick the squad going into the World Cup, and then how I pick and change the team as I go throughout the tournament. Now, obviously, I'm going for England, right? The reason that it's these 5 teams is because these are the 5 World Cups that I've watched. Now, my memory of some is better than others, not because I was drunk, but because I was 8 years old in 2006. So we're going to start with the newest winners first, Argentina 2022. Now, this slide, or this part, I wanted to just think back of 2 or 3 things that I remember the most before I sort of went back and watched the games or looked at the squads. 3 things that I remembered the most of what made this team successful. And for me, the 2 things that came to mind, the first one is they had the star player, Messi, who was carried defensively by 2 runners, mainly Julian Alvarez and Rodrigo de Paul. And the other thing that I think they did very, very well was change shape a lot based on the opposition. I believe all of their knockout games, they played a different shape. And I would say 3 out of 4 of their knockouts, they changed shape to nullify the opponent, and then in the final they did something where it was, let's go out and be our strongest team. So now we look at their minutes distribution. You have the most minutes up the top. You have the most minutes up the top, and that yellow column there is full 90s played. So they went to extra time twice, which is why the top number is 7.7. And the first orange bar here that we have is the 11th guy, who played 4.1 full 90s out of, again, 7.7. And the next orange bar is 1.3 full 90s, and that's for the guy who played the 16th most minutes. So this World Cup was the first that you're allowed 5 subs. So essentially you can think of it like starting 11 and the main subs that came off the bench. Now, some of these so-called subs also started quite a few games, but like Di Maria started 4 games, but that's just, again, a very basic way to look at it, right? So you have Emi Martinez, Lionel Messi, and Nicolas Otamendi all played every single minute available. And then we go down from there. Again, De Paul played heavy minutes, Enzo Fernandez, Alexis McAllister, and Julian Alvarez, 3 vital players that didn't start the first game and came in the first few games, normally getting a sub appearance here or there. And then they really took it and ran with it. And Scaloni was adjustable enough not to say, oh, I have Lautaro Martinez, who is the entrenched player, the older player. He's like, Julian Alvarez is playing better. I'm going to bring you in and you're going to start and play heavy minutes. The other interesting thing from here is you have both of their left backs playing the exact same amount of minutes. Again, it's something that I think England could have done if they took the 2 left backs that I wanted, which was O'Reilly and MLS from Arsenal. And again, the 2 main numbers, if you're going to remember 2 numbers from this series, is 4.1 for the 11th guy and 1.3 for the 16th. Everyone below this, 1.2 games, 0.7, 0.6, 0.6, 0.2, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and the 2 goalkeepers, as you would expect, don't play at all unless there's an injury. Now, the majority of this, or what I'm trying to get at with these 5 videos for the past 5 teams, and then a 6th sort of summing them all up, is the trends, and also pointing out, I guess, misconceptions that people have in terms of how important is the 26th guy in the squad. Like, how important even is the 17th guy? He's only played 1.2 games, and I'm not saying he's not a very good player or that those 1.2 games weren't important, but it's very hard to find a Lionel Messi for England. There's plenty of guys who could play 1.2 games, who can do a job in seeing out a game, whether that be from a defensive point of view or maybe changing a game from an attacking point of view, right? You really want to know and build around those top 3, top 4 players that are going to have to play not just heavy minutes, but almost every single minute, again, as we look at the other squads. So another way to demonstrate that is the first 11 played around 80.5% of the total minutes, and the next 5 played about 14%. So you add those two numbers up, the top 16 players have played 94.5%, and the bottom 10 have played 5.5%. Or even if you look at it, the first 11 again, 80.5 roughly percent, versus the next 15 have only played 19.5%. And that ratio is very different to what you'd expect of a Premier League team, for example, where you have to play 38 games, you need a lot more rotation. There is going to be a lot of players for Arsenal and Manchester City, the two sides going for the league this past season, who are very good, very important players, but they're going to play about half the minutes. And you're going to have very, very rarely someone who plays, outside of a goalkeeper, who plays 38 full 90s if you're in Europe especially, right? There seems to be, on average, a few players each season, maybe 2 to 3, I would say, just anecdotally based on my memory, who play 38 full 90s in the Premier League, and often it's a centre-back. It's not going to be Lionel Messi. It's not going to be your star attacker, majority of the time. Now we come to the age versus minutes distribution. So you have minutes up the side and age across the bottom. Now, what I would expect is roughly a bell curve. Now, if people don't know what a bell curve is, it means, for example, between 18 and 22, I would expect them to be down here, those young guys not playing too many minutes. Then between 22 and 30, you start to play more. And then as you get older, down here, it starts to be less and less. Now, if you can sort of picture that rough shape like that, it does somewhat follow, I would say. You have here Enzo Fernandez being a bit of an outlier, and here Messi and Otamendi share the same dot. Again, a bit of an outlier. But if you look even here down Di Maria, it does somewhat follow the trend line, I would say. And the dots pictured are just the top 16, or for the next World Cups where you're only allowed 3 subs, it's top 14, because I think you can have old players in the squad, or you can have very young players in the squad, and it's useful to have them. Like, a young guy might be able to come on and give you an electric 10 minutes, or an older guy between 34 and 38 might be able to give you a game here or there, or might just be a great locker room guy. But ideally, you don't want those guys playing too many minutes. Now, there's exceptions, like the next World Cup, you have Mbappe, who's 19, who's all the way up here. I'm not saying he shouldn't play, but again, just looking at overall trends and what sort of makes sense in my mind. Now we come to their results. So in the old World Cup format, now it's a bit different, because if you're third placed, you can potentially go through. But in the old World Cup formats, if you lost your first game, you had to win your next 2 to guarantee going through. So losing the first game, your back is really against the wall. You have to come out with a win and probably another win to guarantee going through. And then we have their 4 knockout games. Now, total, they scored 15 goals. They conceded 8, which gives them a goal difference of +7. Now, if you look at that on a per game basis, 15-8. It's essentially like winning every game 2-1 and winning one game 3-1. Now, they only had 2-1 once, but the reason I want to point out goal difference, again, only being +7, it's like winning every game either 2-1 or 1-0, but because they scored 15 minus 8, it's like 2-1. Hopefully that makes sense to people. The margins, even for, ostensibly the best team in the world, Argentina, the margins are so, so thin. And like this Saudi Arabia game, they were the far better team and they lost. If you do that in the knockouts, you go home. So the margins being so thin means the smallest mistake gets amplified to league football. League football, you can play out from the back all the time and you can say, okay, majority of the time it's going to work. We might concede 2-3 goals that look really silly over the course of the season, but we're going to dominate possession. We're going to create chances because of it. We're going to have to do less defending because we have more of the ball. In knockout football, you can't expect things to average out over time. If you concede one goal here because you wanted to play out from the back all of the time and you have this philosophy that you follow, you might go home, right? And like I already said, one of the lessons for me, just memory of this team, is they changed shape a lot and they were very willing to say, okay, this player is the better defender, I'm going to play him here, or I need a defender because I want to change shape. So we'll come to that now. Okay, now we come to the first game, which again, like I said, was a 2-1 loss to Saudi Arabia, but a very, very close game. Argentina led. Saudi Arabia went on a blitz from 45 to the 55th minute and scored their 2 goals. But Argentina had 3 goals ruled out for offside. So even though they lost, and I don't think they played that great, they were still very, very close to getting a win. And the player that I think that's most interesting for is Martinez, who scored 2 of them, right? But he ends up, over the course of the tournament, getting subbed out for Julian Alvarez. So the 3 guys here are the 3 that, over the course of the tournament, again, not necessarily the next game, but by the final, had been subbed out for a better player, right? Or someone that was performing better during this World Cup anyway. So Scaloni was close. He had 8 out of his 11 from the first game to the final, so he was on the right track. He was very close, but he was also adaptable enough to change and realize, okay, this guy is just doing something amazing right now. I'm going to sub him on once, sub him on twice, and then he's going to take the starting role from there. So Paredes comes out for Enzo Fernandez, Gomez comes out for Alexis McAllister, and Martinez comes out for Julian Alvarez. Now, from the first game to the second game, like I said, your backs are really against the wall here, and he makes big, big sweeping changes. Now, Romero at the back, you could argue was at fault for one of the goals. Not that he made a massive mistake, but he could have done better on it. Straight away, Martinez comes in. The 2 left backs, like I said in the minutes already, they played the exact same amount as each other, just got 1 more start, 4 starts and 3 starts. Acuna comes in. Your other fullback, unless they play a very reserved role at one point, is going to have to get a rest. Montiel comes in. Paredes, he didn't think he was playing that well. He tries Rodriguez in there, and he brings in McAllister for Gomez, and also again goes to 3 in midfield. Right, and they win against Mexico. Then the next game, again, he's getting closer and closer, and this team, with a slight tweak of shape, is only 1 change away from what would eventually make the final, which is Tagliafico comes in for Acuna at left back by the final. But he has used those first 2 games. He's lost, he's learned, he's won, but he's still learned, right? I know a lot of coaches will say, when you lose, you learn. When you win, I think it's maybe harder to convince your team that you still need to go out there and be better. So again, you can use losing as a positive thing. Maybe people who aren't that involved in football or haven't coached might see that as a weird thing, but losing can be good. not too much losing, but every so often to humble you is good. So he brings the fullback back in. Martinez actually, I thought, did pretty well because I've watched this game recently, but he brings Romero back in. Enzo Fernandez has come off the bench in the last game and done really well. So he brings him in instead of Rodriguez. And Martinez has not been doing well up top. So he brings in Alvarez and they beat Poland 2-0 in the final group game. Now we come to their knockouts, right? So he's used the group stage as a testing ground and he's made lots of changes. And now from here, he's really narrowing in on his final team. And the changes are more based on, like I said earlier, nullifying the opponent, switching formations to put an extra midfielder in or put an extra defender in or put this type of player in. Maybe it's a right-footed left winger or a left-footed left winger, something as a change-up that you see, okay, this might go and win us a game. So they play 4-3-3. Again, the two players that I say did the running, Alvarez plays as the number 9 with the ball, but a lot of the time he ends up helping the midfield without the ball. And De Paul, if the fullback ever goes, De Paul is a very hard-working player. He was there to shuffle. And Gomez comes in for Di Maria, only one change. Now we have a change of shape. Netherlands play 2 up top. So Scaloni wants to play 3 at the back. You bring in Martinez, a third centre-back, for Gomez, who is your third attacker. But again, he mostly knows his team by now. He knows the goalkeeper. Romero, Otamendi, he's pretty sure of. Messi, Alvarez, he knows works well together. This is slightly wrong because Acuna was the left wing back, but he knows De Paul, Fernandez, McAllister brings great running, great passing, very good balance in midfield, and he's figured out he prefers Molina at right back or right wing back in this game. Now we come to the semi-final. Again, the changes, left back is fairly like for like, I would say, from what I remember, and again, watching a couple of these games recently, the two left backs are fairly similar, right? I don't think necessarily one is miles better at one thing than the other. And he brings Paredes in because Croatia play their, at the time, one of the best midfields in Brozovic, Modric, and Kovacic, arguably the best midfield at the World Cup. And Pasalic, who is essentially a number 10 playing on the wing, but would spend a lot of time drifting centrally. So if you think they're going to play 4 midfielders, I'm going to play 4 midfielders. He keeps the same 3, McAllister, Fernandez, and De Paul, as he's learned to trust, and he brings Paredes back in. Then we come to the legendary final. Paredes goes out because you don't need 4 midfielders against this team, and he brings in Di Maria, who has a worldie against Koundé, especially in that first half. Now, again, for another fun thing that I want to have a giveaway for. So if you're not on your phone, you can scan this and it's going to take you to the FootMob app. And it's just a predictions league. So I believe you get 2 points for a correct result. So win, loss, or draw if you pick that correctly. And if you pick the correct result, like 2-1, 3-3, whatever it ends up being, you get 3 points. So if you finish first in this league, you will also get some free swag. And this is on iPad. You come and hit this button, or on the phone, this is how you do it. So this is how it looks for me. You come up to the top right menu, you hit predictor, you come to leagues, then you go join a league, and you can enter that code down below or on the previous slide. And again, always ending the videos with Makaton, which is essentially sign language for people with special needs. So it helps them communicate. Maybe they can't say the word, or they might be dysregulated. Like again, the setting I work in, it's important that no matter what is going on, we're able to communicate. So the word is choose, right? So you'll be choosing the results and hopefully choosing to subscribe to my channel. All right, remember to be ready, safe, and kind. Cheers.